Hello and welcome to day number 4 of TT Lock-In fueled by Monster Energy. We have another TT Lock-In live where Steve Plater and myself will be joined by Peter Hickman. And don't forget, you can get involved in that conversation too. Coming up after that, we take a look at exactly what it took for Peter Hickman to set that new lap record in 1:35, breaking the barrier.
The battle is on. Harrison versus Hickman.
But coming up first in the Ultimate TT Races presented by Bennetts, we've seen the guests we've got on, so there's only one place we can go. Back to 2018 for the Senior TT. The weather for the 2018 Senior TT had been stunning. Track conditions were perfect. This was always going to be a fast race.
Here for the blue ribbon event, the Poker Stars Senior TT. 6 laps of hectic racing is what we're expecting to see.
Yes, Cameron, this is the big one. It's the one they all want to win. They'll be heading from the grandstand out to the west of the island. It's around 9 miles to the first timing sector at Glen Helen. And conditions are perfect. Will we see lap records tumble in this one, as we have seen pretty much all the way through this week? First on the road, Connor Cummins. The Senior TT is go.
Connor started the week off with a Superbike TT podium. Can he stand on that big bike podium again, Dave?
Next away, James Hillier, 10-second intervals as ever. James Hillier on the Kawasaki. Here's Connor Cummins through the bottom of Bray Hill. These riders won't have eaten for around 3 to 4 hours before the start of this race, because due to the speeds they reach, when they brake hard, they slow, the bike slows, but the contents of their stomachs don't, so they don't want anything in there during the race. Dean Harrison away.
This is the man that a lot of people have tipped to take this race win.
And this is the other man that a lot of people have tipped to as well. He won the big Superbike race at the start of TT Race Week. Michael Dunlop on the Tyco BMW, chasing Dean Harrison.
Yep, sure to be a force to be reckoned with.
Over Agos Leap goes Dean Harrison.
Dean Harrison has been coming out of the block so quickly all week. These other riders can't afford to let him get any time on them early in the race.
Peter Hickman, another of those who's been tipped. He's got his first TT win. He bagged that in the Superstock TT earlier in the week. Can he grab win number 2 on the Superbike?
There goes Pete Hickman.
There was a lot of talk whether he would go for the Superstock machine and put some slicks on it, but he has gone for Superbike.
Dean Harrison, he's already caught Hutchie and he's passed him. He's not wasting any time in the beginning of this lap.
Connor Cummins into Ballacrane.
I don't think there was any doubt in my mind that we would see Peter Hickman aboard that Superbike today, Dave.
That's right, we're on board with Peter Hickman through Crosby. He only lasted 1 lap in Superbike on the first race of the week. Oh, and a little wiggle. So Dean Harrison into Glen Helen. He led on the Superbike race. We'll have to wait for Hickman and Dunlop to come through. He's the fastest rider so far.
Yeah, he certainly looks quick.
This is on board on the rise up out of Sarah's Cottage to Cronkivody. We're looking now down on Dean Harrison, and it's super fast through here, as it is pretty much all the way around the course. The back wheel shaking around.
Yeah, it certainly is. He's asking a lot from that Silicon Engineering Kawasaki. That back end, you saw it just battling for traction on the way out onto Cronkivody Straight.
Lovely from Peter Hickman. He is...
Whoa, what's happened here? Someone with a catastrophic engine failure by the looks of it. There's oil and smoke. James Hillier. James Hillier's race is definitely over as we see the Quattro Plant Kawasaki roll to a stop. Now, there could be oil on the course here, Dave. This could be quite serious.
And that's around the Bagaro area of the course as well, Cameron.
Yeah, James has done the right thing. He's pulled off the racing line immediately, and you can see the oil there down the road.
That was Michael Rutter just going through. We're on board now with Michael Dunlop. Michael Dunlop in 3rd place on the leaderboard. He was 2.5 seconds ahead of Hillier, who will now drop because he is out of the race as Josh Brooks comes through.
Well, you could see that visually. It cost Michael Dunlop a huge amount of time where he had to slow for the yellow flag. He had no choice but to slow.
The only person I think will benefit from that would be Connor Cummins, because he's already gone through, of course. The likes of Dean Harrison, Peter Hickman and Michael Dunlop will have lost a few seconds.
Look at Dean Harrison leaving a telltale trail of black rubber on his way out of Mayhill.
Michael Dunlop putting on the style, but he dropped back to 4th place at Ballaugh, but that would have been because he had to slow. Connor Cummins has shuffled up into 3rd position on the leaderboard. Throw to the gooseneck then, Connor Cummins.
Well, with Pete Hickman as he rides out of Parliament Square.
Peter Hickman in 2nd place. He's around 5 seconds down on Dean Harrison. That's David Johnson just ahead of Peter Hickman.
He's got Davo Johnson on the Golf BMW. Hopefully he can get past without it costing him any time.
So this is the approach into Ramsey Hairpin, and he'll probably get him on the exit, I would imagine. Dean Harrison continues to lead.
Look at that footage, Dave. It's almost like when he was on that 600, just tucked in.
Connor Cummins in 3rd place, or a battle for 3rd place with Michael Dunlop. Peter Hickman in 2nd, still chasing Dean Harrison on the leaderboard. So Peter Hickman now going past Ian Hutchinson.
He's had to contend with a little bit of traffic, Pete. It'll be interesting to see if that's affected his split times over the mountain.
Well, he was 2.3 seconds behind the race leader Dean Harrison at Ramsey and 8.4 seconds ahead of Michael Dunlop. Boy, have we got a race on our hands.
Imagine a place shrouded by mystery, a sea-bound kingdom with a rich history that echoes through the ages, a melting pot of character and taste where true heroes exist and sea monsters bask in the shallows. Landscapes carved from pure imagination and magical vistas of the 7 kingdoms, a world of tangled trees and twisty trails, a place where legends are Manx made. Isle of Man, the extraordinary story.
It's the senior TT, the big one at the Isle of Man TT races. They'll be coming over the mountain. Hailwood Heights, then dropping down into Douglas to complete a lap, 37 3/4 miles.
Not sure how long it'll take the marshals to clean up that oil spill at the bottom of Vigaro, but that could have an effect on how long we have to wait for another lap record.
Well, there's been a lot of talk of 135 miles an hour after what we've seen this week. Dean Harrison was 7 seconds inside the lap record at Glen Helen, but however, over the mountain he slowed, and he's around 5.5 seconds around outside the lap record as Connor Cummins comes in for his pit stop.
Which is still a blindingly quick pace, Dave.
But Connor Cummins, 3rd overall at present. He's trailing Peter Hickman and Dean Harrison, and here is Dean Harrison, the race leader. He was around a second faster than Hickman at Crocknamona. Steve Plater is waiting.
Here we go, Dean Harrison in the pits. Connor's on the road first, but of course it's all to play for in the paddock here now. He had a 5-second lead. Hickey's brought it back to 2.5 seconds, so it's all to play for.
Harrison 5.5 seconds outside the lap record at the end of lap 2. Michael Dunlop is in.
We can hear Connor starting up and getting ready to go. He's first out on the road, still in 3rd place. That's it, we're all fueled up, ready to go. Bike started up down the pit lane, away he goes. Out on there for lap 3.
Peter Hickman into the pits.
Right, we've got Hickey in the pits here. The boys are chilling out. They're quite a major change for Hickey from race 1, from the first superbike race. I know they're using a completely different rear tyre. My prediction was for Hickey to win and try and bring it out of the bag. He's obviously well happy with the Dunlops. The guys are just getting the bike pulled up, rear wheels in, locked up, torqued up, good to go. Hickey's chilled out, having a quick chat with the boys. And that was so tight, getting that fuel cap back on and out for him to get out of pit lane. It all matters here for the pit stops.
Well, Peter Hickman said that he was going to go for it from the word go on the first lap. He felt he'd been holding back a little bit earlier in the week. He's using the tyre that he used in Wednesday's practice, and it seems so far to be paying off, but Dean Harrison is still the man on top of the leaderboard.
Yeah, he is, and it was Dean that was the man that went for it from the start, as we've seen all week. He put the gap into his competition in that first 2 sectors.
1.4 seconds, the difference between Dean Harrison, the race leader, and Peter Hickman in second place. Connor Cummins back 23.5 seconds back in third, and Michael Dunlop, surprisingly, 7.5 seconds back in fourth. He's way off the pace this time.
He is at the moment, Dave, but it is the top 3, as predicted, that are dicing for it. We've got Pete Hickman and Michael Dunlop, both on Dunlop shod BMWs, and they're against
Dean Harrison on the Metzler.
Exactly.
Hickman lost a second to Harrison in the pits.
Yeah, you can't afford to lose any time for your competition in those pit stops, but they're all back on track now, and it's up for them to make up the time.
Ian Hutchinson, the fastest of the pit stops. Michael Dunlop was 56.2. Dean Harrison was 56.3, and Peter Hickman was 57.2. Josh Brooks exit quarter bridge. Sounds great.
It certainly does. That V4 has a heck of a note to it.
Now we're on board with Dan Cooper into Craig Navarre.
And glancing down there like he may have had some sort of issue.
Little bit of a front wheel tuck, I should say, from Connor Cummins, and look who's chasing him, Dean Harrison. And on board with Michael Dunlop out of Grieber Bridge, heading west.
You just see the back of Michael's bike looks a little unstable there. A few twitches at the front and the back. That may be one of the reasons why he's not pushing those other 2 at the front.
Well, Peter Hickman took his first TT victory earlier in the week in the Superstock TT.
Now, you see from that onboard shot, Peter Hickman very physical. That tall frame, the way he can really muscle that BMW from side to side.
The Connor Cummins, first rider into Glen Helen. Dean Harrison, the second rider into Glen Helen, but the first rider on the leaderboard. And he's been really quick from the grandstand heading up to Ramsey. Oof.
He is laying that Kawasaki on its side. He could have just about put his elbow down there on his way past Sarah's cottage.
He carried so much speed. We see so many riders going into Sarah's. They keep it nice and tight to the inside of the turn on the right-hand side at Sarah's cottage. We might see that from Michael Dunlop now. Yes, we do, but we saw Harrison really go wide and drift out. Michael Dunlop in 4th place, half a second behind Connor Cummins, and the gap between Dean Harrison and Peter Hickman has extended by 3 seconds just on that 9.5-mile run from the grandstand.
See Gaz Johnson on his way through Glen Helen.
On board with Josh Brooks. He is fighting. Well, he's pretty much on his own, actually. I was going to say he was fighting with Gary Johnson, but he has a good advantage over Gary Johnson, 18 seconds.
Now his 2nd year on the Norton, starting to look quite comfortable on it.
Martin Jessup just behind Ian Hutchinson through Glen Helen. Jessup down in 8th place. And Ian Hutchinson does the gentlemanly thing. Oh, and lets him through, but just about.
I'll tell you, let him through, but Martin went a little bit deep and he almost went back up the inside.
Oof, heart in mouth.
Okay, we've got the helicopter shot here.
Kurt Michael through the village. 27 into Glen Helen. That's Sam West going really, really well. He's ahead of Martin Jessup and just behind Gary Johnson. As number 80 comes through, that's Davey Todd.
Yeah, another rider as a newcomer. Davey's been impressing as he just increases his speed with his circuit knowledge every lap out there at this TT.
Over Bluff Bridge they go. Michael Dunlop being pursued by Peter Hickman.
Oh, Peter Hickman is catching Michael quickly, and there'll be only one rider smiling about that, and it won't be Dunlop.
Whoa, through goes Hickman. Dunlop won't be happy. Dunlop back in 4th. He's 4.4 seconds behind Connor Cummins. Dean Harrison leading Peter Hickman by 5.4 seconds at Bluff. But as they go from Ramsey up over the mountain, this is where Peter Hickman has been getting the edge on Dean Harrison. Harrison is quicker to Ramsey, but Hickman is quicker from Ramsey back to the grandstand.
Will Michael Dunlop be able to get the toe on the back of Pete Hickman? Well, looking at this, not Dave, because he's already gapped him.
I don't know whether he's gambled at all with something, Michael Dunlop, but whatever it is, it's not paying off today.
You can see clearly how little of the road Michael is using compared to his normal line, that he's not riding with that same level of commitment. I would say he's not happy with his machine.
Well, Paul Idden from Silicon, I was talking with him before the race, and I was talking to Jason Jones of Smith's Racing. They were both confident about their boys, and it seems to be paying off as Gary Johnson is past Michael Rutter.
See the bikes just skipping up across those sections of bumps on the way out of May Hill there. It's the road is almost corrugated.
So Dean Harrison through Bungalow, the next timing point. We have to wait for Peter Hickman to see whether Peter Hickman has once again eaten into Harrison's lead. Here he comes. Josh Brooks in 5th place, half a minute down on Michael Dunlop at Ramsey, but a good 18 seconds ahead of Sam West.
Yeah, a view of nothing but clear road from the rear-facing camera of Josh Brooks.
Dean Harrison versus Peter Hickman. That seems to be the battle that's developing in this senior TT. Through Hilbury goes Dean Harrison. He was 6.2 seconds ahead of Hickman at the Bungalow. So Hickman has picked up 2 seconds from Ramsey to there. Will he continue to bite into Dean Harrison's lead at the end of lap 3?
Yeah, we thought this might have been a 3-way tussle, but it looks like it's a 2-way duel at the moment, Dave.
Yeah, Connor Cummins in 3rd place. He's got a good 10 seconds ahead of Michael Dunlop. So here comes Dean Harrison to complete lap 3. So Harrison over the line. That's Connor Cummins behind him.
Yeah, will Connor be able to benefit from a little bit of a tow from Dean? We've seen him make the most of any rider that has passed him during the week. I'm sure he'll do the same in the senior if he can.
Can Peter Hickman reduce that gap even further? But it seems to be developing into Harrison from here to Ramsey and Hickman from Ramsey to the grandstand. 5.8 seconds the distance this time.
We're on board with Dean Harrison. Silkaleen Kawasaki looks like it's working very well. I mean, it has to be for him to be able to ride these blisteringly quick lap times. That's another machine that also looks very good on road every time we see it. The Smith's BMW.
So we could be looking at lap times or lap record times this time around on lap 4 as we ride on board with Peter Hickman. Out of Kurt Michael. Well, Harrison was 5 seconds inside the lap record at Glen Helen. Peter Hickman was 6 seconds inside. The gap 5.4 seconds. Harrison still leading.
What we see here, it doesn't look like it's possible for Michael Dunlop to respond to these two.
Yeah, he's way down. He's almost a minute down on the leading 2 riders. Unbelievable.
Yeah, maybe it's either he's taken a gamble on a setup that he hasn't tried yet, or there's something on the bike that just isn't quite right.
Well, Harrison and Hickman both 2 seconds inside the lap record. We thought 135 miles was on lap 2.
Slow speed of Pete Hickman's Smith's BMW over the crest, keeping the back tyre on the ground though. When the back tyre's on the ground, it's building speed.
Just about. So into Parliament Square. Super speed from Peter Hickman. Times it to perfection.
And he looks so comfortable aboard that BMW. Well, we see Dean Harrison now back on the mountain. He's already starting to encounter some slower traffic, and that could come into play in this race day.
Yes, Harrison was half a second inside the lap record at Ramsey.
Look, we often see in the footage these slower riders that are encountered on a lap, and it's part of the TT, and it can work for you, it can work against you, but everyone's out there doing their best.
Well, the gap increased between Harrison and Hickman into Ramsey. 7 seconds there. It was 4.5 seconds at the Bungalow. What will it be at the end of lap 4 as they come into the pits? We're looking down on Dean Harrison. Here is Michael Dunlop still in 4th place and losing time to Connor Cummins in 3rd. Peter Hickman out of signpost. And Hickman 2 seconds inside the lap record at Crocknamona. 2 seconds inside the lap record. It needs to be 4.2 for 135 miles an hour. That won't go as we look at Dean Harrison across the line.
Dean Harrison slows for the pit.
But what will Peter Hickman do? Down to Steve Plater.
That's it, he's in there. Dean comes in for his 2nd pit stop of the senior race. The guys are nice and relaxed. Dean's just asking for a visor change, changing the rear wheel. Just a standard pit stop. He was quite happy after pit stop 1. no big issues, no big problems. He's had the hammer down there on lap 4, but unfortunately behind him, Hickey's been pushing even harder, and a new sector record from Ramsey Hairpin through. Oh, we've got a problem with the rear. We have got a little issue with the rear. It's coming back out, back in. This is so critical in pit lane. It really, really is. This is what you just cannot afford. The win depends on this. This will be Kawasaki's first win in the seniors since 1978 with the great Mick Grant. So it's all to play for and all to push for. Obviously, these last 2 laps are going to be big. They really, really are. He'll be aware he's only a few seconds up on Hickey. He's got to get his head down and go, go, go.
New lap record, Peter Hickman, 134.45.
Well, Dave, we've had so many lap records this week and they just keep getting quicker.
That's it. It's a new lap record for Pete Hickman on this lap. That was lap 4. He pushed hard. I just said he got the best sector there from Ramsey Hairpin through to the bungalow. That's my old sector. Luckily, it's staying in Lincolnshire.
Dean Harrison leads Peter Hickman by 1.4 seconds with 2 more laps to go. It could be a record number of lap records that have been broken at the Isle of Man TT this week. Peter Hickman, 134.4. He's taken the lap record from this man, Dean Harrison.
Dean is pushing very hard, as they both are. Both riders that have won TTs this week, both riding brilliantly, brimming with confidence, and less than 2 laps between them and their name on the Senior TT Trophy.
This is going to go all the way to the wire if they stay to this script. We're looking at Connor Cummins in 3rd place, a lonely 3rd place. He's around 52 seconds down on the 2 men ahead of him.
Right on board with Peter Hickman, coming up to Greba.
Now, so far in this race, we see the distance between Harrison. Oh, now then, Michael Rutter with a problem. And look at the front, something's wrong.
Yeah, it's definitely an issue there. It looks like the end of the TT for Michael Rutter. Dean Harrison again up through with a much tighter line up through Sarah's Cottage that time than the previous lap.
Michael Dunlop half a minute down on Connor Cummins in 4th place. Now we've seen the gap squeeze up at the end of each lap, and then it opens up between Harrison and Hickman on this run out to Ramsey.
Let's look at the sector times here, Dave.
6.2 the difference at Glen Helen. It was 1.4. So Hickman lost time in the pits as well.
Now it's about the time of the race. These boys would start to talk to their machines. They'd be starting to say, come on, just a lap to go. Get me home. Let's do this job.
But Connor Cummins into his hometown. And looking good for a podium. But Peter Hickman, he lost nearly 4 seconds to Dean Harrison in the pits, and he has to make it up again. Oh! Sam West in a really good position, battling away with Gary Johnson. On the leaderboard, Josh Brooks also in 5th place.
Dean Harrison coming up onto the mountain section.
Out of the gooseneck. Now we're back into Hickman territory. The gap was 5 seconds at Belaf. What will it be out of Ramsey?
We say Hickman territory, but I tell you, Dean Harrison's certainly not slow over the mountain. And any other aspiring TT riders could learn a lot from watching how he rides over this section.
The gap was 4.9 seconds at Ramsey. On lap 1, Hickman was a second faster from Ramsey to Douglas. Lap 2, 3 seconds. 2.5 seconds on lap 3. 5.5 seconds on lap 4. What will it be on lap 5? Harrison into the bungalow.
We'll see how Harrison goes. Is he going to get clear track? Or are they going to encounter any more traffic before this race is over, Dave?
Elwood Heights, the highest part of the TT course. Michael Dunlop still in 4th place, but losing time on each sector to Connor Cummins.
Yeah, it just seems Michael Dunlop's definitely not happy at the moment, not riding to the level that we know he's capable of, and just seems to be ticking off the laps.
Josh Brooks is around 40 seconds down on Michael Dunlop. So Josh Brooks still holding fifth. Oh, Sam West.
Oh no, he's pulling over, and he was riding so well, Sam West, in the top 10.
In 7th place, in fact. Peter Hickman through Hilbury. The gap at the bungalow was 3.6 seconds.
Here we go, down the start finish straight, there he goes. Wow, that makes the hair stand up on the back of your neck, it really does. Dean's pushing hard, this is going to be one big last lap. Only a few seconds between Dino and Hickey. It's all to play for, of course, for either of them's first senior win.
Well, the gap between them at Cronknamona, a mile or so further back up the road, was 2.5 seconds. Here is Peter Hickman. What will the gap be this time?
Over the white line there, down the side of the pit fence. That's incredible. That boy's going to be pushing hard and trying to better his lap record from lap 4.
1.9 seconds, the gap at the end of lap 5. Now, as we see it, Concertina back out. Dean Harrison, as Michael Dunlop wobbles his way past the grandstand.
Yeah, I think he's shaking the handlebars and his head with frustration.
So then, what a final lap this is. The fans are going crazy on the side. Here's Dean Harrison goes into Ballacrane. We see the gap open up each time up to Ramsey. Dean Harrison's got to push. Peter Hickman will be strong over the mountain. Dean Harrison has to get a big gap between the two of them going into Ramsey.
If either of these two riders have ever had a reason to push, it's now.
And also we've got traffic to contend with. What role will they play in the outcome of this race?
They could play a huge role, Dave, because we all know how difficult it is to safely pass slower competitors on the TT course.
Hickman into Ballacrane. The battle is on. Harrison versus Hickman. A new name looks to be on the Senior TT Trophy.
We know that both Dean Harrison and Pete Hickman are both smart, intelligent racers. They won't want to take any unneeded risks when they're passing these slower riders.
Cameron, Dean Harrison 2 seconds inside the lap record at Glen Helen.
Did you see the back tyre just break away there under acceleration? He's pushing.
He is pushing, and I think that's an understatement, Cameron. Dean Harrison is going for it.
Both of these riders entering uncharted territory, riding the Isle of Man course quicker than anyone has done before.
Connor Cummins trying to find a way through at Glen Helen.
Not often you come up behind this many lapped riders in close succession. This could really have an effect on these riders dicing for the lead.
Yep, how will Peter Hickman find a way through? We saw Michael Dunlop being held up, and there goes Hickman, 3.7 seconds.
Will he come up behind them in the corners? Will he come up behind them on Cronkabody Straight? We're yet to see, but it doesn't look good.
Hickman inside the lap record, not as quick as Dean Harrison though. Michael Dunlop through Glen Helen, still in 4th and losing time, hand over fist to Connor Cummins.
But he needs to sit there in 4th. We've seen how many bikes have not finished races this week. If he has a DNF in front of him, he could easily make up a position. As we see Peter Hickman into Kirkmichael, now that really slowed him up.
And this is not where you want to find riders, is it, Cameron? Through here.
This is hurting Peter Hickman hugely. He's off the throttle where he should be on the throttle.
Peter Hickman trying to thread his way through. Dean Harrison into Ramsey. Now at Balaf, he was 3 seconds inside the lap record. Peter Hickman was a second outside the lap record, and that will have been because of all the slower traffic. 5.7 seconds the difference between them at Balaf. Will that gap reduce, or will it be about the same as they come into Ramsey? Oh, Hickman charging.
Pete Hickman is catching Connor Cummins on the way into Ramsey. He'll want to get past him under brakes. He will not want to be held up by Connor.
Too true. He should just squeeze up the inside here. Connor won't know he's there. He might just see him as he shows him his front wheel. Connor will just let him go through. That has worked out very well for Peter Hickman.
Yeah, it has. Well, Peter made that work. Michael Dunlop through Milltown. And now we're back up onto the mountain for the last lap. And if we've ever seen Dean Harrison push us now with only 2 seconds the gap.
Well, both Harrison and Hickman were 3 seconds inside the lap record at Ramsey. Hickman is around 4 to 5 seconds faster each lap than Harrison from Ramsey to the grandstand. I think it could be Peter Hickman. If the story of this race goes as the previous 5 laps does, it will be Peter Hickman's race.
We just saw Peter Hickman two-wheel slide that superbike at nearer 200 miles an hour than 150. That's just, it's mesmerising to watch.
Yeah, it's incredible. So Peter Hickman through the bungalow. Dean Harrison has gone through. Peter Hickman leads. Peter Hickman leads. 0.8 of a second ahead of Dean Harrison. He's 5 seconds inside the lap record, so 135 miles is on.
I think they've both been hurt by lap traffic, but now it's down to them. They've both got a clear run off the mountain. How are these cards going to fall?
I think it's going to go. At this pace, it has to go. 135 miles an hour. We count them as 5s now, don't we? Hislop 120, Dave Jeffries 125, John McGuinness 130. Will it be Dean Harrison? Will it be Peter Hickman with 135 miles an hour? Oh,
Dean Harrison using all the road on the way into Governor's Dip. He can't waste a second. He will have his teeth grit. He won't be blinking. He won't be taking a breath as he crosses the line to finish his senior TT.
So Dean Harrison crosses the line. We've got to wait for Peter Hickman.
Peter Hickman, no. Traffic again. This could cost him dearly.
Not only just one, but he's got 2. This could be Dean Harrison's race. Oh, Hickman out from under the trees.
Oh no, that's a cruel blow for Pete Hickman.
So here comes Peter Hickman across the line. He wins the senior TT at 135.4 miles an hour. We've witnessed history.
135 miles per hour.
So Connor Cummins takes 3rd. Dean Harrison is 2nd. Peter Hickman takes the win. Wow.
Connor Cummins rounding out the podium.
Pete, I don't know where to start. 135.4. What is that all about?
I have no idea. I saw when I came across the line, you know, I saw 16:42 on the dash. I know it's somewhere near. The line's not always perfect on the GPS, but I knew it would be a fast lap. And yeah, I was just point to point everywhere and just hitting all my markers and just pushing them that little metre or 2 here and there where I thought I had a bit of margin, and here we are.
Yeah, no, I felt comfortable. I pushed on the last lap. I lost so much time from Sulby all the way to Ramsey because we backmarkers on the road, and you've got to be so cautious when you pass them on the track. So I lost 4 seconds in that sector to do, and I did my fastest lap. So disappointing, but fair play to Peter. A good race all the way through.
Yeah, I'm really happy to be on the rostrum again. I feel like I've been riding strong all week, but it's not only down to me; it's down to the team. The Paget team have put a great package together for me for all the season. So. Thanks to the team and all the sponsors. Yeah, I'm just ecstatic to be on the box again.
Wow, what a race. I mean, honestly, I'm still buzzing. That was a masterclass from Pete, wasn't it?
What a grand finale it really was. You should have felt the tension down here in pit lane. Both the pit stops, the guys did a great job, but it was to win or lose just here. But fabulous all the way through. Cam, what about these lap times?
Well, we were all talking we were going to see the 135, and it was almost on for lap 2. We had to wait for that last lap, and after Dean leading every lap, for Pete to come through on that last lap with a 135, like Dave, incredible.
It was incredible, and also the fact that Peter lost so much time in the pits and then to claim it back, and we knew once he got to Ramsey he was so much quicker than Dean Harrison over the mountain. It was just a case of that countdown to the checkered flag and 135 at the end. Wow, we've just picked ourselves up off the floor, haven't we?
You could not have scripted a better finish to the TT.
Mate, if the weather isn't as good as this for the next few years, that record could stand for a long, long time. It really could.
Well, I think that really is going to go down in TT history as one of the best races. And a huge congratulations to Peter Hickman.
Coming up after the break, we've got TT Lock-In Live. Welcome to the third episode of the TT Lock-In Live, where I'm once again joined by 2009 Senior TT winner, Steve Plater. Steve, how you doing?
Yeah, good, Chris, thanks. It's been a good week so far. The ever-enthusiastic Clive Paget last night, that bloke's a legend.
That was amazing, weren't it? Now, did you watch the second round of the virtual TT? Now, I know it'll never replace the TT, but I've got to admit, I'm enjoying watching the girls and guys smashing it around the virtual TT course, setting some pretty decent times as well.
Absolutely. Don't get me wrong, I'll still pick leathers over a controller, but there's been some great racing, and it's going some way to fix or sort my TT fix so far anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Well, if you've missed any of the action from last night, which included Davey Todd and Raul Torres Martinez, make sure you head over to iomttraces.com where you can catch it up with it there. Otherwise, you can go to TT Races official YouTube or Facebook pages. But back to tonight. What a race. We've just witnessed one of, if not the greatest race in TT history, although I might say that Steve probably has something to say about that. But I'm delighted now to say that we are joined by the star of that show.
We're on board with Peter Hickman. Incredible.
Pete's right foot, right down next to the ground. Much wider, his line out of there.
We're on board with Peter Hickman, a little bit of flames, and he'll be looking to build on his lead.
Unbelievable. Pete, welcome to the TT Lock-In Live. How are you doing, mate?
I'm good, thank you very much. How are you guys?
Yeah, really well. Now, we were talking earlier, and it sounds like you just haven't taken your foot off the gas at the minute. You've got so much stuff going on. You've been chatting to our friends over at Bennetts. You were doing a Milky Quail style TT lap with the guys at Braemont Watchers. I've seen you vlogging, podcasting, you set up your own business. Are you quite glad that the TT's been cancelled or what?
Not at all, no. It's been a very busy time, yeah, don't get me wrong. But yeah, nothing can replace the TT, can it? But I've just been trying to use the time that we've been given here as best as possible, really. So yeah, like you say, set up PHR Performance. I had my Avali stuff going on already, and I've always had my merchandise going and stuff, and I've just been added more to my YouTube channel, so I've been doing a bit more of my we're doing some garage tours, so some of my bikes in my collection, which I've been managing to build over the last few years, kind of just talking a little bit about them. You know, we're all interested in bikes, aren't we, at the end of the day? So we've just been getting some bikes out, giving them a run, and giving a little video chat round.
Pete, we've just been watching the 2018 senior race. It was a stunning race from start to finish, and quite rightly considered as one of, if not the greatest TT race of all time. But it somewhat overshadowed the rest of the meeting, which by then had already been packed with plenty of drama for yourself. How had your TT been up until the start of that senior race?
Yeah, like you say, it'd been a quite a dramatic 2 weeks anyway, hadn't it? I mean, I think every single lap record went in every single class. I managed to get my first win earlier in the week, so on the Superstock bike, I won my first TT, which was obviously pretty epic. I finished on the podium in both the Supersport races. The start of the week had actually gone massively against the plan. You know, I didn't even finish lap one in the Superbike race. We had an injector failure, which is like, well, unheard of. I've never had one in my entire career, and we had an injector failure on the first lap of the Superbike race in 18. So, yeah, it kind of the week actually started very badly, but by the end of the week, we were definitely on fire.
Just tell us a little bit about that running off the track. I think we've got a bit of ET, but you know, did you think the game's all over for that race?
Yeah, that was the Superstar race. Joe, in fact, I think it was your fault. I'm going to blame you for it because you kept telling me that I was too slow on that one. I need to get my finger out. Yeah, straight on. So I was just trying to get my head down, really, and got on the brakes. We've done the Supersport race earlier in the day, and you know what it's like. You ride the Supersport bike. It's quite easy to ride compared to the big bike. And then I jumped on the stopper, and soon as I sat up to brake at what I thought was my braking marker, maybe a couple of meters further on, I just thought, oh dear, I'm way too deep. So yeah, I think the difference between the Supersport bike and the stocker was just, it caught me out a little bit, really. And I was trying to get my head down because people like yourself were saying I need to pull my finger out early on. So I tried to and did the adverse thing instead.
Right, lads, I'm going to ask both of you this question. I'll start with you, Pete. Obviously, the senior TT, the biggest race of the week. Do you approach it slightly differently from any other races during that week? Or because it is the biggest race and you know it's the last time you're going to cock your leg over your bike for kind of like the next 12 months at the TT, do you approach it slightly differently?
Not for me, no. I never approach any of the races really any differently. You know, at the end of the day, there to win. That's all I'm bothered about. So I'm pretty chilled out and relaxed anyway. You know, funnily enough, that particular morning, the sidecar race was before us, and the sidecar race gets set off at about 10:45 in the morning. I was still fast asleep. I know a lot of riders still struggle to actually sleep the night before any TT race. Well, I don't. I was literally flat out asleep, and it was only the sidecar setting off that actually woke me up. So, so yeah, I was pretty chilled out as normal. Kind of mosey on up to the line, not too long before the start, and have a chat, have a laugh, and then put my helmet on and off we go.
How about you, Steve? Is that the same? Were you rocking up from the pub at 11 a.m., putting your levers on and getting going?
I wish. I can see a pattern there, Pete. You're just the same as Hislop and Bruce Anstey, flipping laying in bed half the morning and then being proper on the pace. But no, for me, 2009, you know, I had it a little bit in my ear as well, the same as I did to Pete from Neil Tuxworth at Honda Racing about, you know, just sharpening myself up at the beginning of the race. So it was kind of all to play for, of course. I'd had some podiums during the week, and I think I finished second in the first Superbike race. So you really want to finish the TT off with a, you know, with a great result. And of course, with it being the biggest race of the week, it's the one everybody wants to win. It really is. Right.
Absolutely.
You know,
go on, Steve.
Sorry, Chris. You know, Pete, what was your game plan going into that race? I know, of course, you're going to tell me it was to win, but, you know, you kind of always set off races or seem to set off the races quite steady, a little bit like Bruce Anstey, you know, was having a good chat with Clive Paget last night and he was saying the same. But, you know, I know you have kind of at least 3 pit boards around the lap. One of them's Martin Knighton and some other guys. But, you know, do you kind of go as hard as you can and then work off your pit boards from there?
Yeah, exactly. You know, I mean, as we've all said already, but I'm normally quite steady at the start, and it's not because I necessarily want to be. I just can't get it's not that I can't get my head into gear. I just like to be settled before I push hard. I've managed to actually sharpen my game up a little bit the last year at least. I was actually fast at the start in last year's 2019 TT for all the riders, but for all the races, sorry. But yeah, I like to kind of get myself settled in, make sure the tires are good and up to temperature and they feel all right and the bike feels okay, suspension feels okay, and then I like to get my head down. I've got, like you say, I have 3 pit boards around the course. One's at Ballacrane, so that obviously gives me a start line time. I then have Martin at Sulby Bridge, which quite a few of the riders do. In fact, even Dean, he was doing Dean's pit board that year as well, so he was doing both of our boards. And then I have one up on the bungalow as well, which is a guy called Colin. So yeah, I have them 3. I actually had 4 for the senior that year. In fact, no, I tell you what I did. I took the Ballacrane pit board out and I moved it. And I moved it to just past the Craig. The reason I did that was because I knew that Dean was already faster in Sector 1 and 2 than me. So I didn't need to know how fast I was or how fast Dean was or what I was losing in Sector 1 and 2. What I wanted to know was how close I could get to him over the mountain, because I knew that was my strong point. So I moved the board from Ballacrane to past the Craig to give me a bungalow time so I could see what I was gaining each lap. And that's what I worked off on that last lap, really, because I felt like I had a bit more in me still over the mountain, even though I was already kind of between 3 and 5 seconds a lap faster than Dean over the mountain. Or over them sections, shall I say. So yeah, that's why I moved the pit board to there, and that's what I worked off. You know, once you're kind of getting into a race, you know what it's like, Steve, you're all kind of, everything's like clockwork, everything's slowed down, it doesn't feel like it's doing 200 mile an hour, even though you are. And you start calculating stuff in your head, and that's exactly what I was doing.
Well, you say it goes like clockwork and everything starts to slow down, but from looking from the outside in, it looks like utter madness. I still can't get my head around it. And what amazes me the most, and I guess this differentiates you from everybody else, is you can be going 180 miles an hour through Kirkmichael, and then you get to a pit stop, you're as cool as a cucumber. In fact, I'd love to know what your heart rate is as you go through Kirkmichael.
Yeah, maybe we should do that sometime. I mean, MotoGP's done it before in the past, haven't they? You can see where the rider's at. Here we are going into Kirkmichael now. Look, this is Douglas Road corner. So we're back to third gear. And then absolutely pinned from now. So pinned in third gear, up to fourth, up to fifth, actually pushed up on the left-hand side just there. Absolutely pinned now, point to point all the way through. So yeah, about 175 mile an hour, somewhere around there. Looking for the yellow line on the left, head, and back to the yellow line. Yeah, it's I think it'd be quite cool to do that. Like I say, they've done it in MotoGP. You can see how the rider's heart rate changes as they go from corner to corner around the track. Maybe that's something we should look at for TT 2021, eh?
Well, I feel mine's already up to about 180 there. Just watching that, that is unbelievable. Let's move on and talk about the final lap, the 135 mile an hour lap. It kind of puts you in the history books alongside some of the greatest. We had Steve Islop breaking 120. We had David Jeffries at 125, McGuinness at 130, now you at 135. How does it feel? Did that lap feel any different to any other lap before?
Yeah, there's some cool names you just mentioned right there, wasn't there? It's nice to be included with them boys, I can tell you. Did it feel any different? Not particularly, I wouldn't say. No, apart from there was a lot of backmarking lap. But no, it was just you're just doing your thing at the time. You know, I knew I was in with a shout. I knew I was in with a chance. So I was just getting my head down and using them markers and pushing where I felt like I had that bit of room. And, you know, as we all saw, it ended up coming to fruition. But it wasn't really at the time. And even it took me a few weeks for it all to really kind of sink in. And even now, I don't walk around going, oh, I've done 135 mile an hour on the TT. It's not really my thing, but you know, it's still, it's more people coming to me that kind of remind me about it and saying that, you know, they were there. Most of the time it's because people were there. You know, I was stood at A, B and C, or it's got to ways, and you know, it was such an experience from the outside, I think, probably more so even than from a rider's perspective.
Yeah, definitely. And Steve, I know it was a long time ago now. We'll try and remember. Back to 2009, your senior TT win. You went during that TT the fastest you ever went, and I think it still stands as like the 19th fastest time around the TT. Like, can we remember that far back? Firstly, and if you can, did it feel any different that lap, or was it just again another day at the office?
Let me tell you, in there it was yesterday. No, it never does feel fast. You know, any fastest lap, even at a short circuit, Pete will tell you the same. You know, when everything's flowing, you'll always come back at the end of the lap and say, "Do you know what? That could have been a little bit faster." Because you're not fighting the circuit, you're not fighting the machine. You're all at one with everything. So I think realistically, kind of is for sure it's not the easiest of laps, but you're certainly you're at one with everything, and that's where the lap time comes from. So, Pete, what about 2019? You know, obviously, not two wins, not a really bad week. However, the senior not quite to plan. Three wins. Sorry. Sorry, man. Sorry.
Swear.
I'm trying to figure that.
Yeah, it should have been 4 as well, but anyway, there you go. 2019 was always going to be a tough year. You know, it was a brand new bike for myself and the Smiths Racing team, the new S1000 RR. A fantastic bike, there she is. But it was so new to us. You know, we only got it on the 28th of March, which was less than a month before the first round of BSB. So everything was in a massive rush, and as you know, we have to run the Motec systems in BSB. They're not easy to put onto a new bike. Everything's custom made, all the wiring looms. Goose at Motortronics was sorting all that out for us, and it was a massive rush. So really, the bike was built in quite a rush. Really, as good as Smiths are, you need as much time as possible, and they didn't have it. So we went to, we did the first couple of rounds of BSB. We then went to the Northwest. We then came straight back and did BSB again, and then went to the TT. So we also had no time to develop anything as such because we were too busy racing. We couldn't actually get anything changed, and we knew at the Northwest we had a bit of an issue on the superbike. The stocker was unreal. The stocker was mega, but the superbike we had problems at the Northwest with it chucking water out. And we went to the TT. The weather wasn't great at all. It rained a lot that year, and it hampered us loads. I missed the first night where most people got kind of 4 to 6 laps in on the Supersport bikes. I missed because I was at Donington still racing for BSB, and that ended up being the best night of practice. So I missed out on 6 laps straight away. I then did, over practice week, I actually did 8 laps. So there was 2 on the Superbike, 2 on the Stocker, 2 on the Supersport, and 2 on the Lightweight. Now, anyone listening and watching, you have to do a minimum of 2 laps to even qualify. Well, I only did just the bare minimum on each. And we still had problems with the Superbike. It was still chucking water out. We still couldn't work out why. It wouldn't overheat. So it wasn't an overheating problem. It would just somehow pressurize the water system and chuck water out. So when it came to the first Superbike race, we decided that because the Stocker was working so well, literally overnight before the Superbike race, we changed the front end over, the rear end over. So we basically turned the Stocker into a Superbike. It was a bit of a hybrid. So it had the kit electronic system and all that. But it had Superbike forks and Superbike brakes and the Superbike swing arm and stuff. And that first race went a lot better than expected. I mean, it was only 2 laps. Obviously, it was cut short, unfortunately. God bless Daly. And it was, I ended up leading at the end of that lap. So that race ended up being ours, which we were not expecting at all. The bike ran mega. I had to almost learn it a little bit again because it was, with a different suspension in. It sounds daft, but even just that little suspension change was, makes the bike handle completely differently. So it took me a good half a lap to kind of get going again, as my usual style. But we actually won that first race, which was awesome. We managed to finish on the podium in the Supersport race again. I then won the stock race, which was awesome. I won the next Supersport race, which was mega. That's my first TT Supersport race win, which I was really happy with on the Triumph. Nice British built bike. So with Trooper involved as well in K2, it was awesome. But then because we won the Superstock race, they stripped the Superstock engine. Even though I was pleading with the scrutineers to leave it alone because I wanted to use it in the senior because we still had this issue with the Superbike. And unfortunately, they wouldn't listen to me. They wouldn't work with me with it. They just basically wanted it stripping. And the problem was, normally that wouldn't be an issue. However, because the bike was so new, we didn't even have anything such as head gaskets or, there was nothing available for it as far as parts. So once that engine was stripped, that was it. We couldn't build it again. So we ended up having to run the Superbike on the senior. And I guess the rest is history. We got to lap 4, which is the furthest actually it got. It'd never done 4 laps without chucking water out. It'd normally do on lap 2. So we got to lap 4 and I was actually had a glimmer of hope of thinking this is going to go all the way. And I had a 19-second lead or something on lap 4 when I came to the pits. And before I left the pits, I could see the water in the bottle rising and rising and rising. I just knew it was going to chuck it out. And that's exactly what she did when we left the pits on to start lap 5. So, but to still finish on the podium, them last 2 laps, I worked out while riding that as long as I stayed below 11,500 RPM and no more than kind of 50% throttle at that point, it wouldn't chuck water out. So instead of just pulling in or pulling over or giving up, I knew I had 19 seconds over Dean, and I didn't know what the gap was to third at the time, but I figured it would be a good distance. And you never know, Dean might break down. It might, something might happen. So I just kept going really, and just we managed to finish second, which is pretty impressive. I think I can't remember what my last lap time was in that race, but to still finish second and on the podium, having only ridden at half throttle for 2 laps, is pretty impressive, really.
That's not bad going at all, is it? So 2020, obviously, it never happened, but you were staying with the Smiths race team. You obviously had another year under your belt, but you were moving away from the Trooper Triumph for this year.
Yeah, so we were staying with Smiths for the Superbike and the Super Stock race, and the BMW, of course. Now with all of its small problems sorted, so it doesn't spit water out anymore, which is awesome. We figured it out after the race, but anyway, that's another story. So we had them for the big bike races, and like you say, we moved away from the Triumph mainly because the bike's just a bit too old and there's not many parts available for it anymore. I love the bike. We all love the bike. As a team, we love the Triumph. Smiths have had a massive history with Triumph, even, British Supersport Championships multiple times, multiple race wins, one at the TT. They've had some massive success with Triumph, and I really enjoy riding the bike, but it's a little bit old. There's not many parts around for it. It's not the fastest by any means, and I'm certainly not the smallest rider. So, the Yamaha made sense to move over to it. You look at the World Supersport, nearly everything's a Yamaha at the front. I raced obviously against Lee Johnston on his last year, and he was really, really strong. So I got to see quite a lot of it, especially at the Ulster. So we figured that was the way to improve for our Supersport efforts for this year.
That was shaping up to be a very tasty TT in 2020. Of course, Michael Dunlop on the Super Trick factory Ducati V4R. McGuinness buzzing with a new, very strong Kawasaki team behind him. Davey and Connor on the all-new Honda Fireblade. Hillier in a new team with Dave Johnson on BMWs just like you. And Hutchie back with the Taz Racing team. Obviously, Dean is your number one rival at the moment, and he's staying with the same team on the same bike, so he's all going to be pushing you all the way again, mate. But who out of all of those was catching your eye the most, or who was you most scared of?
Yeah, exactly right. It was definitely shaping up to be an awesome season. There was going to be lots of changes, as you've just said. It was exciting, and I was really excited for it. I still am for 2021 now. I mean, I'm pretty sure everyone's probably going to stay put. I certainly hope so anyway, because I think that kind of prospect of all them changes is an exciting thing. So I think Dean's going to be the main rival for me, I think. He's been really, really strong the last couple of years. He's doing more and more BSBs, which is keeping him really sharp, and he's learning. He's getting faster and faster. Every weekend we turn up, he's a little bit closer again to that top 10. So, he's been riding awesome. So I think from a rival point of view, he's probably on paper at least, he's the favourite to be the strongest. But any of them names you just mentioned, plus a handful more at least, are capable of winning races. So it's going to be an interesting one. I was looking forward to seeing Dunlop on a Ducati on a V4. I thought that was going to be really, really exciting. I was looking forward to that, and see what the new Honda can do as well, of course.
Now, of course, 2021, I'm guessing you're going to be staying anyway with the same, being the official BMW team. You've won now on Supersport, Superstock, and Superbike. Is there any other classes you want to be going out and winning to continue the domination?
Yeah, that is the plan. So I think most people know already, but I obviously rode for the Norton last year. So I rode the little 650 lightweight that they brought out with McGuinness and Davey. And we came to an agreement before the end of the year. So I actually owned the bike. And the plan was for this year to run the bike myself. So it's actually being built here at PHR. It's being completely changed from what it was. I mean, the base bike's really good. It just wasn't a race bike, that's all. It was a road bike with no lights on it. That's basically what we raced last year. I finished 8th on it. Again, I only did 4 laps on it. I did 2 laps in practice and then a 2-lap race on it. That's all I did. And it did 120.2 mile an hour. It was heavy. It's 25 kilos overweight. We're spending a lot of time. We've changed a lot of it. Apart from the engine and the chassis and the swing arm, everything else is different, and I mean everything. So it's a complete new motorcycle. It's going to be pretty awesome. I'm actually really excited about it. I'm looking forward to getting it out there. And it's something different. The class is full of ER6s and patterns at the minute, so it's good to be riding something different and something that's British as well. So the plan was to try and win all 6 races, of course.
As you can appreciate, one of the most popular men on the TT scene at the minute. So we're getting plenty of questions coming in from Facebook and YouTube. So Pete, we're going to start putting some of the questions to you from the public. And the first one is, where does winning the senior TT rank in your career?
At the top. Yeah, I think that's a pretty simple one, isn't it? It's the biggest race in the world, isn't it? So it's right up to the top.
How important, Pete, as far as your career is concerned, is your relationship with the Smiths team?
Oh, absolutely massive, and it's not just even TT related, just as a general whole. I mean, you'll know yourself, once you're comfortable with the team and the people around you. I mean, Darren, I've been working with for years and years, is my best mate as well, so that works even more. But the whole team's a bit like that, We've got Dave here who's working for me now doing engines stuff as well. We are all just a big, I said it earlier, a big group of mates. All the boys and girls, Rebecca, Alan Smith as well. We all get on really, really well. And that makes a huge difference. And there's some really technical guys in the team. Pete Clifford, who does all the electronics and runs his own dyno just up the road from here. Luke Brown, who's working on the mechanics for us. Matthew, who's the number 2 mechanic in our team. He's an engineer and makes a lot of the parts even for us, So we've all got our own little roles going on. Pete Martin, who's been with the Smith team for ages, doing all the wheels and tyres and stuff. It's just a really fantastic team to be involved in. And some really experienced guys there. And we've got James Buckingham, who is Alex Olsen's crew chief for BSB, but he comes to the TT and the road racing with us. He's been with Martin Jessup. He's been a front runner in BSB himself. So he understands from a rider's perspective what I'm trying to say when I'm putting things across. Pete Clifford can ride bikes and stuff as well, so he also understands from a rider's perspective. And then we've got Daz, who's not only ridden bikes himself as well, but also been around and crew chiefing now for a good few years. He's learnt from people like Chris Walker. He's had, he's crew chief with a lot of different people. So he's been able to understand what different riders want and how they interpret different things, shall we say.
So, Pete, you go well on Superstock and Superbike, but the public want to know, which one do you prefer and why?
The Superbike, it's simple, because it's an animal. It's the hardest bike to ride, but it's also the most rewarding when you get it right. And it's rewarding because it's the hardest to ride.
The big question, Pete. Can you equal Hutch's 5 in a week?
Well, we would certainly want to. That's why we were entering 6 to try and make it. But I wouldn't say it's necessarily a goal as such, because we always go out to try and win every race. We try and win 27 BSB races in a season. It's not, that it's a difficult one. But of course, yes, that's what we're going for. Yeah, it's not because we want to take a record from him, but we just want to win every race. Simple as.
Pete, another question. Would you rather be crowned British Superbike champion or be the most winningest TT racer?
I've been asked that quite a lot, actually. I don't know, is my honest answer. I don't know. I've never really thought about it, but, I'm desperate to be British Superbike champion. I'd love to be able to do it with BMW. At the same time, I want to win as many TT races as possible. Again, I'm not really going for the records with the TT. It's not, records will always be broken. I mean, obviously, I'm a long way from 26 TT wins, and it's never something I've thought of. I want to be able to do at least 26, or I want to do 27. I'm there to win and enjoy myself and do some big wheelies and skids.
That should have been a one-word answer, both. Seriously.
Yeah, both.
That senior race, obviously your lap record in 18, could that have been faster?
Yeah, it could have been fast. I mean, when you watch it, you can see how many back markers. If you actually watch the lap on YouTube, which is up on the TT pages, I think there's 9 back markers, and they all pretty much cost you something at some point. I think probably the only guy that didn't was probably Connor. And even he, I had to compromise my line turning into Parliament Square. So, all right, it'd have only been a little bit, but it's still all them little compromises here and there cost you time. So how much faster? I don't really know. I think realistically, it probably would have been about 136 on the dot. It might have been a little bit more, it might have been a little bit less, but it would have been somewhere around 136 flat, I think. They've been about 5 seconds-ish faster, I think.
I guess at least it gives you something to work towards in 2021. Pete, who has been your most fierce rival throughout your TT career?
I'm going to have to say Dean, I think, on that one, especially the last 2 years. I mean, up to that point, I really didn't feel like I had rivals as such. I was just there learning and understanding stuff. I guess in 17 it was Hutchie, because really Hutchie was the only guy that was really kind of in front. I know Michael obviously won the senior that year, but yeah, it was between kind of me and Hutchie, especially on the big bikes for the majority of it. But that was really as I started to actually click with everything and feel like I was knowledgeable enough of the circuit to warrant sticking my neck out where I wanted to. So that was the first time, I had 5 podiums from 5 races. It was really successful. And then from 18 onwards, it's been trying to get some wins. And Dean's been the one really that's been pushing that all the way.
Pete, apart from your fellow Lincolnshire riders, who's been your biggest inspiration to get yourself on the pace?
Well, of course, Steve Plater is the number one. Inspiration. Well, from a career point of view in general, I'm a Rossi fan. I always have been, right from kind of when he burst onto the scene. But as far as TT, I still am. I'm a McGuinness fan. I love the way that how relaxed John is to life, never mind racing. I love the way he rides a bike. I think he rides so economically, and he's very, very smooth and on point. And that's something I've always, right from being a kid, when I wasn't even thinking about TT racing, I wanted to be a Grand Prix rider. And, you look at any of the Grand Prix riders, probably Marquez is the exception, where they're normally pinpoint accurate. Someone like a Lorenzo that's absolutely on the dot like a robot every lap. That's so hard to do. That's what I aspire to, and I think McGuinness falls into that category with his style of riding for sure.
Pete, in fact, I was lucky enough to be on the start line for the 2018 Senior TT, and I had butterflies. I was nervous, but I think I even said hello to you and up and made sure you're all right. Do you still get butterflies pre-race, or are you just absolutely as cool as a cucumber like you look on the exterior? Well,
pretty much as people who know me, I'm a bit weird. So I'm not really one for nerves. I never have been, to be quite honest. Even on a BSB grid, I don't particularly get nervous. Even for the TT, I can actually eat my dinner on the start line before setting up, whereas most people can't eat the night before. So I don't really know why that is. I guess it's just my demeanor. I'm like this all the time, 24/7.
Pete, what's your funniest TT memory? Don't tell me anything to do with, obviously, Rebecca, your chief, your boss, drinking too much, as usual.
Do you know what? That is probably one of the best, though. I've still got an image in my head from 2018 when she got in at, I don't know what time in the morning, and we're trying to have a meeting in the truck, and she was laid out on the sofa. And she was absolutely sparkoed. And that's the team boss. I think that's ace. I think that's why I fit in the team so well.
Mate, she's going to hate you for saying that. Right, I just want to take this opportunity to say, Pete, thank you so much. We understand how busy you are, so thank you so much for taking the time to chat to us tonight at the TT Lock-In Live. Now, we've heard from the man. We saw it earlier in the 2018 Senior TT, but now it's time to find out just how he broke 135 miles an hour.
The Isle of Man TT races of 2018 will live long in the memory. Glorious weather, fantastic racing.
Michael Dunlop wins TT Superbike 2018.
And lap records broken in every class throughout race week.
It will be Peter Hickman who wins. A lap record, 134.4. So Dean Harrison coming up to take the checkered flag.
But the event will be remembered for one thing above all others. The first ever 135-mile-an-hour lap of the TT course.
And he's inside the outright lap record. What a final lap this is. Peter Hickman leads. He's 5 seconds inside the lap record. He wins the senior TT at 135.4 miles an hour. We've witnessed history.
I was confident that I could win. I had 5 podiums and 5 races the year before, so I knew that I was in with a shout, so it was on the cards.
Only thing I'm going to go do is go race my motorbike. I'm going to get on my bike, and on that day I will go as fast as I possibly can. That's it, and everyone does the same. It all starts in testing, really. Superbike's sort of a work in progress, so there's a lot going on behind the scenes, but it's just see what we'll bring out later on. It takes you a few days to get your head back into gear. When you're off the bike for a fair few months, you never sort of start where you left off. You're sort of a bit rusty here and there. You need to get back up to speed, and it's getting that back and sharpening yourself up for the first meeting. Never get enough bike time this time of year, so the more laps to do, the better it is for everything, really. So anything we can find and sort of, work on and make better, do it as best we can.
We set out our goals in 2017 and what we wanted to happen and what we felt we could achieve. We came to the TT, all 3 big bike races we were second. I guess that kind of builds into the second year, which was 2018, with the same bike, the same people around me. Everything was just kind of geared up already for another cracking year, and as we learnt more and understood more about the bike, but actually it kind of came to the TT nearly identical as what it was the year before. So it might not be the exact same engine, but it's built to the same specification. The forks and shock were built to the same specification. It was all identical. So anything that we think is even possible of being weak or weaker, we just change it.
We believe in Dean, simple as that. I think Dean's the way Dean works with the team, the way the team works with Dean, it's a really good relationship, and I personally think he's the best prospect for the Isle of Man, full stop. Brand new bike we're building specifically for the TT. If we can put a good bike under Dean and give him the confidence just to go that little bit faster. For every corner on the Isle of Man, you're talking nothing to becoming a podium finisher and a winner. If we had to go to the Isle of Man tomorrow, we could actually race. With the bikes we've got in here, we could be racing, we could be ready. We've still got about another 2 weeks' work on the Superbike, so that'll probably be just getting screwed together just before we put it in the truck and go on the boat.
In the Isle of Man, if you get there and you attack the track and you're tense, I think you go slower. You've almost got to take a laid-back approach, but race. After we'd done, I think I did 133.4 or something in practice, and I was like, I felt good to do it, and I felt, I can go faster here. And once you think you can go faster, you sort of know you're in a real good place.
Paul, a reaction to that?
Wow, Dean's riding well within himself. He says he's not even trying. He says everything's flowing. He needs to make some changes on the bike. He's not quite got it right where he wants it yet, so but everything's going quite well at the moment.
kind of went about my business in practice week, and actually all the talk was about Dean and Michael, and because Dean had done 133 I think on night 2 or something. I was just kind of steady away. I think by the end of practice week I did 132, maybe 132, but I'm always a little bit under the radar. I always have been, especially in practice. You don't need to go fast in practice, you need to go fast in the race.
Like just all the time, arm pump like hell. Yeah. I don't get anything. Yeah. That's the hard tyre, and that was the foul on the two-bike.
I was very vocal that the bike moves too much, and I wasn't quite happy with how the bike was reacting. And we were talking with Dunlop about it and what we can do to improve it, and they had an idea of something that they'd just tried in the World Endurance racing at the time, and they decided to kind of do a bit of an Isle of Man compound with something that they'd tried in Slovakia, and it worked. They flew it over for the 1 lap practice on the Wednesday. Immediately the bike was better for me.
Believe it or not, right, the bike became ready to race after Alton Park Superbike round. That was when the bike was ready to race, and me. I could have gone straight from Alton Park straight to the TT with the bike as it was.
The greatest show on earth is about to begin. It's the first race of the week. Away we go. Oh no, Dean Harrison, he retires from first place. He led from the start, having shattered the lap record, the first 134 miles an hour of the TT course.
When I got to Tuesday, I think I'd led every race, broke every lap record and not won. That was the strangest thing. And then when I once I won on Wednesday, I felt quite relaxed then, to be honest.
Yeah, the week shaped up nice in the end. You never really know where you're at. You have a good idea, but it's always a rough kind of guesstimate. You don't know where everyone else is sitting and what everyone else has got up their sleeve, and just how fast everyone's going to go. You just don't know. When you sit on that start line, it doesn't matter how confident you are, you don't know what everyone else has got. Race day, senior race day especially, the atmosphere is always different, but people kind of know the score and know what's about to happen and what's about to go on, and I guess that kind of gives it a certain aura around the whole place, and that's what's really, really special, and it's not going to happen for another 12 months.
Me and Lee was sat in my caravan before the race, sat there, you obviously sit there contemplating life again, before you go to the start line, just laughing at each other, to be honest. I was relaxed, right, but I had in my mind the problems I've had in race 1. I was thinking, I hope that's solved now, and it's the tension that's there, the atmosphere is unbelievable.
It's different for everyone, being the chilled, relaxed person I am. If you overthink it, it all goes wrong. So I'm a big believer in you think about it when you need to think about it, and you sort out what you need to sort out when you need to sort it out. If you're thinking about how you're going to do this and how you're going to do that, and is this going to happen and is that going to happen, there's too many variables, you just don't know. You need to deal with what happens at the time it happens.
I was on the start line for the race. I still feel like it's me that's setting off down Glen Crutchley Road on the start. It's the same feeling I had 26 years ago, whenever it was, the last time I was there. People were saying to me, "I'm so glad you're not setting off down there now." And I thought, no, they're totally wrong, totally opposite. I'd love to be doing health after, the sort of, the age and the health and stuff to be setting off down there again in my early 20s or whatever, and go and try and win the TT was just amazing time.
But the weirdest thing is, the start of the race, before the first bike goes, is almost an uneary silence. I almost relax a bit once I've gone through this first set of ballards, because I know what to expect and I know what to do.
This is the big one. It's the one they all want to win.
It's not necessarily filled full of nerves. It's like a weird sort of calm feeling. I know you're just thinking about jumping on the bike and going as fast as possible, and it's a different feeling. I've not felt, or experienced anything like the feelings that I do leading up to a race anywhere else.
First on the road, Connor Cummins. The senior TT is go.
Connor started the week off with a Superbike TT podium. Can he stand on that big bike podium again, Dave?
Next away, James Hillier, 10-second intervals as ever. James Hillier on the Kawasaki.
For me, I do prefer going sooner. You sat around less time with the tyres potentially cooling down, and for me, I suppose none of the riders really like that moment when you're waiting to go the build-up, but as soon as the flag drops and you're riding, then you're in the zone.
Michael Rudder away on the Batham's BMW to a good start.
The senior TT, it's the big one and everyone wants to win that. I think the crowds around the circuit always seem a lot bigger. I think just all the locals and that come out. It's the one where you want to finish and you want to finish well up.
It's the crowd as well that makes the atmosphere. Once the green light comes and you set off and you've got everyone's face all down the left-hand side, in your peripheral vision you do see all of it obviously, but you're just focused on where you're going. And
Dean Harrison away.
Sure to be a force to be reckoned with.
Watch people setting off and kind of listen to the gear changes on the run up to St. Ninians, and I'm kind of counting the 10 seconds between one and the other, and I've got about 30 seconds or whatever it may be. Davo was starting off in front of me last year, so kind of wait for him to sort himself out. And then cruise up, make sure she's in gear. That's always a good one. Make sure the clutch is working. Make sure you put her in gear before you get to the line. And then wait for that tap on the shoulder and watch that flag, and away we go.
Peter Hickman, another of those who's been tipped. He's got his first TT win. He bagged that in the Superstock TT earlier in the week. Can he grab win number 2? So Dean Harrison into Glen Helen. He led on the Superbike race. We'll have to wait for Hickman and Dunlop to come through. He's the fastest rider so far.
Yeah, he certainly looks quick.
I think Hillier bottomed out and dropped a load of oil.
Whoa, what's happened here? Someone with a catastrophic engine failure by the looks of it. There's oil and smoke. James Hillier.
I was the next one behind, obviously James, so I wasn't far off him on the road. Next thing I knew, I was like nearly off it at the bottom of Magarrow. The front just went from under me, and I was going that quick. It just picked itself up, and I knew straight away it was oil down on the road. It was frightening.
Flags were out when I got there, and you could see the strip of oil from where it hit the ground. You could sort of see the sort of shiny line all the way just to the left-hand side on the 13th.
It wasn't scary for me. I would say it was scary for people like Michael Rutter, who was like right behind him, and Hutchie was obviously not far behind Rutter either. So that it'd have been worse for them too, because they wouldn't really know what they were going into. By the time I got there, the flags are there, so you kind of chilled out, and you can kind of see the run down into it. I kind of figured it wasn't a crash, so I was like, well, we should be all right, and I just kind of moved over to the right-hand side.
The only person I think will benefit from that would be Connor Cummins, because he's already gone through, of course. The likes of Dean Harrison, Peter Hickman and Michael Dunlop will have lost a few seconds.
Look at Dean Harrison leaving a telltale trail.
Michael Dunlop putting on the style, but he dropped back to 4th place at Balaf, but that would have been because he had to slow. Connor Cummins has shuffled up into 3rd position on the leaderboard.
Or with Pete Hickman as he rides out of Parliament Square.
Peter Hickman in 2nd place. He's around 5 seconds down on Dean Harrison. That's David Johnson just ahead of Peter Hickman.
He's got Davo Johnson on the Golf BMW. Hopefully he can get past without it costing him any time.
I got my first board at Balaf Bridge. Just after Balaf, left-hand side, Martin, a guy called Martin, does my pit board just on the left there, does a mint job. And I get another board at Sulby, again from another Martin, which is another good board. But I get one at Gooseneck sometimes, I'll get one on the bungalow on the left-hand side.
Yeah, I see the Balaf time and just get a position of P2 minus whatever to whoever's in front and plus to whoever's behind, and I've got no idea who they are.
And I don't have a board that tells me who's behind me. If I'm P1 or if I'm P2 or P3, it doesn't tell me. Like if I'm P2, for example, it doesn't say P2, Hickman, Dunlop, or Connor, Cummins, or Hillier. It doesn't. Nobody tells me where anybody is in the race.
I had a board at Sulby, so Sulby Bridge actually, so after the Sulby Straight, which was a Balaf time. Then had a board at the Bungalow, which was a Ramsey time, and I had a board out of the Craig, which was a Bungalow time. And the reason I did that, I kind of spaced them towards the end of the lap, was more because Dean was faster in the first two sectors, and I knew that, and it was like that all week. I've ridden a Kawasaki around here as well, and I understand why, and I knew why, and I've ridden BMs, and I understand why they won't do what the Kawasaki will do. So I played to my strengths rather than tried to make my weaknesses better, if that makes sense. I kind of did what I could in the first kind of couple of sectors. I knew in the third sector we were very kind of evenly matched. I knew over the last half of the lap I was extremely strong, and I knew that I could be stronger if I needed to be, and that's what I played towards. So that's why I kind of spaced the boards out that way.
Connor Cummins in third place, or a battle for third place with Michael Dunlop. Peter Hickman in second, still chasing Dean Harrison on the leaderboard. So Peter Hickman now going past Ian Hutchinson.
He's had to contend with a little bit of traffic, Pete. It'll be interesting to see if that's affected his split times over the mountain.
Well, he was 2.3 seconds behind the race leader Dean Harrison at Ramsey and 8.4 seconds ahead of Michael Dunlop. Boy, have we got a race on our hands.
My first laps are always rubbish, at least first half a lap. I'm somebody who builds into things. I'm not normally fast at the start. Even something at TT that I was always behind at the start. So to be within 2.5 seconds fairly early on is actually all right for me. It was good.
Well, there's been a lot of talk of 135 miles an hour after what we've seen this week. Dean Harrison was 7 seconds inside the lap record at Glen Helen, but however, over the mountain he slowed, and he's around 5.5 seconds around outside the lap record as Connor Cummins comes in for his pit stop.
Which is still a blindingly quick pace.
But Connor Cummins, third overall at present. He's trailing Peter Hickman and Dean Harrison. And here is Dean Harrison, the race leader. He was around a second faster than Hickman at Crocknamona.
All they're telling me in the pit stop is obviously where you are, who's behind or who's in front, depending on what position you are in the race. Tyre condition, I'll say, what's the tyre looking like after 2 laps.
Michael Dunlop is in.
When I pulled in, I'd figured who was there because I could see Dean pulling off as I was coming in because I was 50 seconds behind, and then Michael was a lot later leaving, so he should have been within 10 seconds of Dean, and he wasn't. So I knew that I was in front of Michael, and I figured it was Dean that I was racing with. So, I mean, I don't really ask for too much information. I just had a quick drink, wet my throat a little bit. I didn't even change a visor, in fact, for the whole of the senior. I just got them to take a tear off each time because there wasn't that many flies, so I wasn't bothered about it. And rather than risk getting a visor on wrong or, in the heat of the moment, it's really difficult for the guys that are in that pit lane.
Sometimes I've come into the pits, and if you get a bit of a windy day on the Isle of Man where it's quite breezy the whole way around, there's no flies because flies can't fly in the wind. So believe it or not, you might do 2 full laps one day and you've got no flies. You're like, oh, don't change my visor. Where on another day, you might have done 1 lap that's still, and it looks like you've been sprayed with flies. It's a bit of a hit and miss.
They're asking, is everything okay with the bike? Have you got any problems? I'm like, no, bike's mint. Yeah, just that was about it for the first one. There's not really too much to say. There's so much more to go.
Well, Peter Hickman said that he was going to go for it from the word go on the first lap. He felt he'd been holding back a little bit earlier in the week. He's using the tyre that he used in Wednesday's practice, and it seems so far to be paying off, but Dean Harrison is still the man on top of the leaderboard.
Yeah, he is, and it was Dean that was the man that went for it from the start, as we've seen all week. He put the gap into his competition in that first 2 sectors.
1.4 seconds, the difference between Dean Harrison, the race leader, and Peter Hickman in second place. Connor Cummins back 23.5 seconds back in third, and Michael Dunlop, surprisingly, 7.5 seconds back in fourth. He's way off the pace this time.
He is at the moment, Dave, but it is the top three, as predicted, that are dicing for it.
Hickman lost a second to Harrison in the pits. Connor Cummins, first rider into Glen Helen. Dean Harrison, the second rider into Glen Helen, but the first rider on the leaderboard. And he's been really quick from the grandstand heading up to Ramsey. Oof.
He is laying that Kawasaki on its side. He could have just about put his elbow down there on his way past Sarah's cottage.
He carried so much speed. We see so many riders going into Sarah's. They keep it nice and tight to the inside of the turn. On the right-hand side at Sarah's cottage, we might see that from Michael Dunlop now. Yes, we do, but we saw Harrison really go wide and drift out. Michael Dunlop in fourth place, half a second behind Connor Cummins, and the gap between Dean Harrison and Peter Hickman has extended by 3 seconds just on that 9.5-mile run from the grandstand.
I'm always quick the first two. Is it the first? How many sectors is the Glen Helen, Ballard? So I'm good at the first 3 sectors.
Dean's always fast out the blocks. That was his thing. He was strong at the start to try and break and then try and get away. I was obviously keeping him honest for them first couple of laps, and he was trying to just push that a bit more to try and break me. So then I was like, okay, I know I've got a little bit, let's go a bit more and see where I end up.
Michael Dunlop being pursued by Peter Hickman.
Oh, Peter Hickman is catching Michael quickly, and there'll be only one rider smiling about that, and it won't be Dunlop.
Dunlop back in fourth. He's 4.4 seconds behind Connor Cummins. Dean Harrison leading Peter Hickman by 5.4 seconds at Ballaugh. But as they go from Ramsey up over the mountain, this is where Peter Hickman has been getting the edge on Dean Harrison. Harrison is quicker to Ramsey, but Hickman is quicker from Ramsey back to the grandstand.
At the bungalow, I would have got a Ramsey time. I think I saw 7 on my board, I think was what I was given. That was the most it got out to, which is when I pulled my finger out a bit more and I was like, okay, I need to actually dig in a bit harder then. You know, I was kind of comfortable with where I was at, and Dean was obviously pulling away, so dug in a little bit more and managed to pull some more back over the mountain. And the mountain, again, the mountain is where I was strong, so that was where I could pull my time back. I was thinking, I can't let it go any more than that. So I need to try a bit harder or use more of the margin space that I have. I need to use it to then see if I can gain that back. Because if it goes any more, then the race is his.
I did see the 8-second lead board now getting stuck in, but obviously I lost too much over the mountain. The Ramsey to the bungalow, that is the part of the track I hate the most. Parliament Square, all the way through till I get past Guthrie's. Nowhere before you come up the mountain mile. That section, for some reason, I can never get right.
The Dean Harrison through Bungalow, the next timing point. We have to wait for Peter Hickman to see whether Peter Hickman has once again eaten into Harrison's lead. Here he comes. Dean Harrison versus Peter Hickman. That seems to be the battle that's developing in this senior TT. Through Hilbury goes Dean Harrison. He was 6.2 seconds ahead of Hickman at the Bungalow. So Hickman has picked up 2 seconds from Ramsey to there. Will he continue to bite into Dean Harrison's lead at the end of lap 3?
Yeah, we thought this might have been a three-way tussle, but it looks like it's a two-way duel at the moment, Dave.
Yeah, Connor Cummins in third place. He's got a good good 10 seconds ahead of Michael Dunlop. So here comes Dean Harrison to complete lap 3. The Harrison over the line. That's Connor Cummins behind him.
Yeah, will Connor be able to benefit from a little bit of a tow from Dean? We've seen him make the most of any rider that has passed him during the week. I'm sure he'll do the same in the senior if he can.
Can Peter Hickman reduce that gap even further? But it seems to be developing into Harrison from here to Ramsey, and Hickman from Ramsey to the grandstand. 5.8 seconds the distance this time.
It's hard to explain really, but there's two different types of 100%. There's probably more than two, to be fair. I would say it's just knowing where you have got a bit of a margin. You don't run on you don't run absolutely on the edge for 6 laps of the TT. You just don't, because there's no need. You only do that if you're in a really tight race, or you're trying to break away, or you're trying to catch. Once that's either you've caught the person and or you've broken away, you go back into your safe mode again. You know, because you don't need to break the lap record every lap to win the race. You win the race at the slowest pace possible.
So we could be looking at lap times or lap record times this time around on lap 4 as we ride on board with Peter Hickman. Harrison was 5 seconds inside the lap record at Glen Helen. Peter Hickman was 6 seconds inside. The gap 5.4 seconds. Harrison still leading. Well, Harrison and Hickman both 2 seconds inside the lap record. We thought 135 miles was on lap 2.
Well, we see Dean Harrison now back on the mountain. He's already starting to encounter some slower traffic, and that could come into play in this race day.
Yes, Harrison was half a second inside the lap record at Ramsey.
Look, we often see in the footage these slower riders that are encountered on a lap, and it's part of the TT, and it can work for you, it can work against you, but everyone's out there doing their best.
Well, the gap increased between Harrison and Hickman into Ramsey. 7 seconds there. It was 4.5 seconds at the Bungalow. What will it be at the end of lap 4 as they come into the pits? We're looking down on Dean Harrison. Here is Michael Dunlop, still in 4th place and losing time to Connor Cummins in 3rd. Peter Hickman out of signpost. And Hickman 2 seconds inside the lap record at Crocknett-Mona. 2 seconds inside the lap record. It needs to be 4.2 for 135 miles an hour. That won't go. The
Dean Harrison slows for the pit.
New lap record, Peter Hickman, 134.45.
Well, Dave, we've had so many lap records this week and they just keep getting quicker.
I actually broke the lap record then, didn't I? I did a 34.4 on that lap 4. I remember Daz saying to me, you got a new lap record, 34.4. But I wasn't really kind of taking any notice. I was like, man, the lap record's a lap record. How far back am I? I'm sure he told me you're within 2 seconds of him. Again, I was slower in the pits than what Dean was, and Who knows why? The team were as fast as they could ever have been. The BM used a lot of fuel, but then so does the Kawasaki. So for some reason we were always slower in the pits, and we don't really know why, but that's just the way it is, I guess. So I always kind of lost 4 to 5 seconds just in the pits.
It could be a record number of lap records that have been broken at the Isle of Man TT this week. Peter Hickman, 134.4. He's taken the lap record from this man, Dean Harrison.
Dean is pushing very hard, as they both are. Both riders that have won TTs this week, both riding brilliantly, brimming with confidence, and less than 2 laps between them and their name on the Senior TT Trophy. Dean Harrison again up through with a much tighter line up through Sarah's Cottage that time than the previous lap.
Michael Dunlop half a minute down on Connor Cummins in 4th place. Now we've seen the gap squeeze up at the end of each lap, and then it opens up between Harrison and Hickman on this run out to Ramsey.
Let's look at the sector times here, Dave.
6.2 the difference at Glen Helen. It was 1.4, so Hickman lost time in the pits as well.
Now is the time to change things for the better by relocating to the Isle of Man. With hundreds of opportunities waiting, you can let your career flourish along with your quality of life, where accountancy, healthcare, teaching, software development, and engineering are just a few of the occupations that are in high demand. You'll have plenty of space to thrive on our amazing island. The Isle of Opportunity, where your dream life is real life. With over 200 flights per week and an island that is truly connected in more ways than one, this is the Isle of Man. Stop thinking maybe one day. Make one day today. Find a better life at locate.in.
Now it's about the time of the race. These boys would start to talk to their machines. They'd be starting to say, come on, just a lap to go.
But Peter Hickman, he lost nearly 4 seconds to Dean Harrison in the pits, and he has to make it up again out of the gooseneck. Now we're back into Hickman territory. The gap was 5 seconds at Ballaugh. What will it be out of Ramsey?
We say Hickman territory, but I tell you, Dean Harrison's certainly not slow over the mountain. And any other aspiring TT riders could learn a lot from watching how he rides over this section.
The gap was 4.9 seconds at Ramsey. On lap 1, Hickman was a second faster from Ramsey to Douglas. Lap 2, 3 seconds. 2.5 seconds on lap 3. 5.5 seconds on lap 4. What will it be on lap 5? Harrison into the bungalow.
We'll see how Harrison goes. Is he going to get clear track? Or are they going to encounter any more traffic before this race is over, Dave?
Peter Hickman through Hilbury. The gap at the bungalow was 3.6 seconds. Well, the gap between them at Cronknamona, a mile or so further back up the road, was 2.5 seconds. Here is Peter Hickman. What will the gap be this time? 1.9 seconds, the gap at the end of lap 5. Now, as we see it, Concertina back out. Dean Harrison, as Michael Dunlop wobbles his way past the grandstand.
Yeah, I think he's shaking the handlebars and his head with frustration.
So then, what a final lap this is. The fans are going crazy on the side. Here's Dean Harrison goes into Balacrane. We see the gap open up each time up to Ramsey. Dean Harrison's got to push. Peter Hickman will be strong over the mountain. Dean Harrison has to get a big gap between the two of them going into Ramsey.
If either of these two riders have ever had a reason to push, it's now.
And also we've got traffic to contend with. What role will they play in the outcome of this race?
They could play a huge role, Dave, because we all know how difficult it is to safely pass slower competitors on the TT course.
There was a lot of them. I think there was 9 altogether. I've not actually fully counted it, but it is what it is. You know, they're running their own race, they're doing the best they can, and they're doing their own little thing, they're in their own little world, and that's just, you know, it's just part of the TT. That's just, we have to deal with it.
Hickman into Balacrane. The battle is on. Harrison versus Hickman. A new name looks to be on the Senior TT Trophy.
We know that both Dean Harrison and Pete Hickman are both smart, intelligent racers. They won't want to take any unneeded risks when they're passing these slower riders.
Cameron, Dean Harrison 2 seconds inside the lap record at Glen Helen.
Did you see the back tyre just break away there under acceleration? He's pushing.
He's pushing, and I think that's an understatement, Cameron. Dean Harrison is going for it.
Both of these riders entering uncharted territory, riding the Isle of Man course quicker than anyone has done before.
Connor Cummins trying to find a way through at Glen Helen.
Not often you come up behind this many lapped riders in close succession. This could really have an effect on these riders dicing for the lead.
Yep, how will Peter Hickman find a way through? We saw Michael Dunlop being held up, and there goes Hickman, 3.7 seconds.
Will he come up behind them in the corners? Will he come up behind them on Cronkivody Straight?
Depends where they are and where you catch them. So the first one was at Braddon. I watched him outbrake himself and run really deep into it, so I knew he'd already messed my line up because I was going to have to wait. I turned in left thinking, well, I don't know where he's going to go. I don't know if he's going to be tight, if he's going to be wide. He actually ran slightly wide, so I nipped underneath him. But I was a good few miles an hour slower than what I'd normally have been. If I was all by myself, I'd have really dug in there. And actually, I'll lose all the speed on the run up to Union Mills then, because I'd just been a few miles an hour slower in the corner. The second one was into Laurel Bank. I had to kind of hang on and wait for a good few seconds behind, because he just wasn't quite. It was so narrow through there, and he was right in the middle of the track, which is fine. That's where he should be. I couldn't do anything about it. You just got to be patient.
I got one back marker, right? The worst one I got one into Glen Tram, and his bike was that out of shape. I was down to like 5th gear through Ginger Ramsey, and I was like, I didn't know which side to go at, because the people are not going slow. You've got to get a run to get past. And I sort of came upon him, and his bike's all over the road. I'm thinking, I didn't get past.
The next one was right after Glen Helen on the run up past Sarah's. And I could see him in the distance, so where he was in the distance, that next there's after Sarah's you got a left kink and then kind of a double right left. And from there you can be pinned all the way through and up onto Cronkivody. So I wanted to still be pinned, I didn't want to have to roll, so I actually came out of Sarah's and rolled out of Sarah's and waited so that I kind of judged that I could run through the right left pinned and not have to roll again to pass him, which is how I did it. So I actually kind of waited, anticipated where I was going to catch him, waited a little bit and then ran at him after, and I managed to do it. I managed to run through the right left, be pinned and pass him without having to roll again, because if I'd rolled again then all the way down Cronkivody I'd have lost. So I kind of lost a little bit earlier to then hopefully gain later, which it worked out.
Hickman inside the lap record, not as quick as Dean Harrison though.
As we see Peter Hickman into Kirkmichael now, that really slowed him up.
And this is not where you want to find riders, is it, Cameron? Through here.
Caught another one then. I'm going through the K tree in like 4th gear. I'm like, you've done me. And that's my strongest sector. So I knew then. I knew I was knackered then. Instantaneously, I knew that's it, done. I lost 4 seconds, I think, in one sector. Peter got back markers as well. So his lap was also restricted with back markers. So who got the worst, who got the best? You can go on all day, can't you? It just is what it is.
Dean Harrison into Ramsey. Now at Balaf, he was 3 seconds inside the lap record. Peter Hickman was a second outside the lap record, and that will have been because of all the slower traffic. 5.7 seconds the difference between them at Balaf. Will that gap reduce, or will it be about the same as they come into Ramsey? Oh, Hickman charging.
Ed Hickman is catching Connor Cummins on the way into Ramsey. He'll want to get past him under brakes. He will not want to be held up by Connor.
Too true. He should just squeeze up the inside here. Connor won't know he's there. He might just see him as he shows him his front wheel. Connor will just let him go through. That has worked out very well for Peter Hickman.
I had a -5. That's what I had. So I had P2 -5. And my kind of, in my head, when I was coming across the mountain on lap 5 to start lap 6, was if I can get to Balaf within 5 seconds-ish, I think I can win the race, because I knew how much I could pull over the mountain. Because in that previous pit stop, Daz had told me, look, you pulled 4 to 5 seconds just over the mountain alone. He said, so that's where you're, again, we knew it already, but he was kind of reconfirming, you're really strong there, that's where you're gaining all your time. And I knew that I still had a little bit more in me if I really needed it. So I was thinking, as long as I get to Balaf within 5 seconds, I should have a good go at actually winning the race.
And now we're back up onto the mountain for the last lap. And if we've ever seen Dean Harrison push us now with only 2 seconds the gap.
Yeah, Dean was always strong in them first 2 sectors. I hit a lot of traffic in them first 2 sectors and still only lost kind of 3 seconds. So actually I was thinking, well, I've actually done all right there. And then, yeah, I think I pulled it back to 2 seconds at Ramsey, which I didn't know until I got to the bungalow, which is a long way into the lap, but I was already flat out then anyway. So that was, the final lap was, this is what I've got. Let's see what we can do.
Well, both Harrison and Hickman were 3 seconds inside the lap record at Ramsey. Hickman is around 4 to 5 seconds faster each lap than Harrison from Ramsey to the grandstand. I think it could be Peter Hickman. If the story of this race goes as the previous 5 laps does, it will be Peter Hickman's race.
We just saw Peter Hickman two-wheel slide that superbike at nearer 200 miles an hour than 150. That's just... It's mesmerising to watch.
Yeah, it's incredible. So Peter Hickman through the bungalow. Dean Harrison has gone through. Peter Hickman leads. Peter Hickman leads. 0.8 of a second ahead of Dean Harrison. He's 5 seconds inside the lap record, so 135 miles is on.
So on the last lap, I obviously got a board at the bungalow, which was a Ramsey time, and it said P2 -2. And I thought, I'm probably leading, because I knew how fast I was over the mountain, and I knew that lap in particular, there was no room anywhere for any more. I'd given it everything that I'd got. I knew I was already pulling 3-4 seconds, and I thought, well, I must have pulled a good chunk again.
I think they've both been hurt by lap traffic, but now it's down to them. They've both got a clear run off the mountain. How are these cards going to fall?
I think it's going to go. At this pace, it has to go. 135 miles an hour.
When I got down to the Craig, which I had my other board, which was a bungalow time, it was P1 plus 0.8, and I thought, yeah, I figured that's where I should be. So then I was thinking I just need to get this last section right, because I knew I was fast there again. I knew there wasn't much between us, but I was a little bit quicker. I was thinking, just do what you've been doing the whole time. Just keep it going.
We count them as 5s now, don't we? Hislop 120, Dave Jeffries 125, John McGuinness 130. Will it be Dean Harrison? Will it be Peter Hickman with 135 miles an hour? Whoa!
Dean Harrison using all the road on the way into Governor's Dip. He can't waste a second. He will have his teeth grit. He won't be blinking, he won't be taking a breath as he crosses the line to finish his senior TT.
So Dean Harrison crosses the line, we've got to wait for Peter Hickman.
Peter Hickman, no. Traffic again, this could cost him dearly.
The Governors didn't really bother me too much. I mean, he stayed nice and tight through the left. I ran it out a little bit, which you wouldn't normally do. If we hadn't had the weather that we had, you definitely wouldn't have been able to do what I did. I'd have ended up on my backside, so I kind of risked a little bit running round him. And again, I didn't want to wait on the exit. And if I'd waited behind him through the left, I'd have had to wait through the right and on the exit, and I probably wouldn't have won the race. I'd have lost my 2.5 seconds right there.
Oh, Hickman out from under the trees.
Oh no, that's a cruel blow for Pete Hickman.
So here comes Peter Hickman across the line. He wins the senior TT at 135.4 miles an hour. We've witnessed history.
Over the line, checkered flag. The lap time came up on the dash because it's all GPS'd, which was 16:42, and I thought, that's pretty fast. Sometimes they're not massively accurate. Sometimes with the trees and stuff, they lose a second or two here or there. And I thought, well, it could be out, but that, if it is that, I know that's fast. It must be just about 135 if it isn't. And then I'm thinking, have I won? I don't actually know, because I know I was 0.8 in front, but was Dean really, really fast in the last sector? I don't know. So I kind of pulled up to the grandstand as the pit lane entrance and asked. Basically kind of went, first, second, where am I? And everyone kind of pointed back with the first, and we're all cheering, and just awesome. What an amazing feeling, kind of relief that you've actually managed to win the senior race for a start. Pulled a big burnout for everyone, clapped everyone's hand all the way down to the Parc Fermé, which was just epic.
By the time you've come in, pulled into the winners' enclosure, Peter obviously gone past the line as well. I knew I was second by the time I'd got to the winners' enclosure. Well, you're disappointed, aren't you? You've just done 6 laps of a race and you've finished second. It's one of them, innit? What do you do? You take it on the chin, though, don't you?
Into the winners' enclosure, another burnout, just to smoke everyone out. And yeah, just, I was so happy for myself, but I was also equally so happy for the team. You know, Rebecca and Alan run a fantastic, small, family-run team. We're pretty big now, but it's still small. And you know, like you say, all the people that were there, all the mechanics, all the guys, the girls, you know, they put so much effort into it. And to actually put our names on that big trophy back there is just unreal. See, they were saying, oh, you know, you did 35 and nobody else did a 35, and yeah, I wasn't really thinking about it. To be fair, I didn't really care as long as I won the race. That's all I was bothered about. I actually did feel a little bit almost sorry for him. I was like, oh, I'm sorry. Sorry, I've just taken that. You know, he led for 5 3/4 laps basically, and the only 2 sectors he didn't lead were the last 2 sectors. That was it.
I get along with Peter really well. You've got loads of respect for Peter. He's a brilliant rider.
I said at the time, I put it on social media straight away, I said, it's the greatest race of all time. And, you know, people went, wow, that's quite a statement. But, you know, it was an amazing race. The speeds them 2 boys are doing, Harrison and Nicky. So, I said that, and I still stand by it, you know, and having been involved in one myself, that was special, it really was.
Clearly the lap record will just get beaten eventually anyway, but you know, it's nice to have, but winning is what counts. If I'd won the senior race and I'd only done 120 mile an hour lap, I'd have still won the senior race. You know, in the next 5 years, who knows? You know, tyre development will come on, bike development will come on, there'll be more technology, the bikes will be lighter, faster. That's just the way it goes. Everyone talks about the first 120, first 125, first 130, so then this is the first 135, so it's definitely a milestone. I keep getting asked, what does it feel like to be the fastest road racer in the world? I don't know, I feel like the same person I was before.
Peter Hickman, have we got a race on our hands? Whoa! Oh! He wins at 135.4 miles an hour.
Maybe this time next year we'll be filming the documentary 136 Breaking the Barrier. I think it's only a matter of time. And coming up on tomorrow night's show, we have two very special guests in Philip McCallan and Brian Reed, as well as race day number 3 in the virtual TT powered by Motul. And don't forget, if you want to stay ahead of the curve of all the latest TT news, make sure you head over to iomttraces.com and subscribe to the newsletter. Make sure you join us tomorrow for more TT Lock-In fueled by Monster Energy.